Going on.
I love the weekend.
I love the weekend, and I love the weekend.
Which one? Which one's first?
I don't know. You
The one
choose.
with
What's going on, y'all? Good morning.
Less letters.
Happy Thursday. Excited to be with y'all today with the boys at Unicorn Finders. No guests today. We are lining up guests as we speak. We have some cool ones already lined up, and we are lining up more. But today we're just going to hang, just the three of us. Boys, it's good to see y'all.
We had a guest, and I felt like it was such a good topic. We felt like it was such a good topic. We needed to bump it out so we can get more hype.
Correct.
For it, right?
Absolutely.
So
yeah. So if y'all are watching, add us, comment us. You know the drill. We'd love to hear from y'all this morning. But I want to go ahead and dive in because I think this topic, one, I think there's a lot. We have a lot to say on it. Two, I think I want to dive in and let the individuals start learning because I think this is an issue that all of us are starting to see in the market right now from a hiring manager perspective as well as a job seeker perspective. And so today we're going to talk about intentionality. And again, if you are just now joining us, if you are like, what is Unicorn Finders? Like, why is there a purple banner? Unicorn Finders, it was say what? Yeah, why not?
So why not have a purple banner?
Basically, Unicorn Finders was basically created during COVID. It was
our intentionality.
It was our intentionality. Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank y'all for tuning in. Becky, Erica, Heath, what's going on? So this basically us three are really good friends. We're really good friends at work. We are good friends outside of work. And it's sometimes tough to talk to Jake about sports, but Dan and I talk about a lot of sports things, and we kind of loop Jake into that.
Dan and I talk about business, and we hear
yeah, there you go. And I don't know anything about business, so I literally don't.
And then you guys talk about how much you are frustrated by my being Enneagram 8. So
actually,
how this whole thing works.
Dang, this is perfect. So
that's perfect
and including at the same
literally
time.
That literally summed us up perfectly. And so, so basically, what we wanted to do is start getting together once a week to talk about things and trends we're seeing in our industry, but also bring on our network. Both Jake and Dan and myself have some pretty good networks. And so we want to go and highlight those. And so today, again, for those of you who are tuning in, we are going to talk about the intentionality of hiring and why you need to be intentional within the job search. So I want to go ahead and ask a question here and kick it off. Dan, Jake, one of y'all can take it. Let's dive into about intentionality. What are you seeing in your market? Give a high level overview. Again, Dan's in Tampa, Jake's in Raleigh, but again, we all have a national presence. What are you guys seeing right now that a lot of hiring managers and job seekers are not doing when it comes to interviewing and or hiring?
Go ahead.
I'll go. So I think the world's in a panic buying frenzy in general.
Yes.
Right? It's like all of a sudden I've got money, don't know why. Haven't bought stuff in forever, haven't moved in forever, haven't gone on a trip in forever, haven't eaten out in forever. I'm going to do everything at the exact same time, right? And that has trickled immensely into the hiring market to where people don't even know why the heck they're hiring. We just got another $300 million in funding, Series A. We got to hire 150 people. And we see all the time. What are you going to do with them?
Yeah.
And also, why can't that company have two of them? Because they only need two and they plan for what they're going to be doing.
Right.
So,
Dan, thoughts on?
I think you skimmed the top of it. I think the biggest thing that I've been noticing is that, similar to what Jake said, a lot of companies are just in this position where they're like hiring and hiring and hiring. And they're like, why? And a lot of times that there's these pet projects or there's like things that are like now like attainable or reachable. We have a better idea what we did, I guess, until a couple of weeks ago about what was happening with COVID. And it's like now we're starting to really position ourselves to like move forward to the next thing, right? And so I think what's happening though is everybody's running so fast, and with this idea of we need to grow, we need to hire, we need to do all of these things primarily because we need to, but also because like our competition's doing it, therefore we need to do it. That I think what's getting lost is a lot of the details and a lot of the minutia that allow like for long-term success. So we're hearing a lot of people getting hired by companies, right. And it happens a lot here in Tampa. They're getting hired by companies in their first day. They don't have a laptop. First couple days, they don't have a laptop. They don't have a phone. they don't have credentials, right? Like I had somebody not have access to an email for 8 days. They were like using like a Gmail, like, and it's just this thing, or the position's not clearly defined, or there's just not. We're so focused on big picture that I think that we're losing a lot of the pieces that get us there. Like we talk about goal setting, right? Like goal setting is like, yeah, you can have big goals, but what are all your small goals that are going to get you there? And I think that we're having that problem with hiring. It's like, I need to hire. It's like, well, yeah, like hiring is one part of like being, or we need to be a successful company. Hiring is a part of that, but like, how do we then make sure that all of the other pieces along the way are like as solid as we just need to hire people? It's like, you need to hire people, but you also need to give people and get like credentialed into like Microsoft Exchange, right?
Yeah.
Like those are
we need to hire 100 people,
too.
but we also need to figure out a way to make sure our people have email.
Right. Or make sure that they're happy, right? Like for the same reason you're hiring, like your onboarding, we've talked about like the best way to like show how good of a brand you are is by your onboarding process. Like how does that person feel? Like you just brought them on, they're super excited. You know, you work for Acme Global Widget Company, or the coolest company in the world, and everybody wants to go work.
Oh man, I love Acme Global Widget.
Yeah. Incredible company. But like you bring them on board and then what? It's like, oh shoot, like we actually need to create like an actual like responsibility and actual duties for this person to make sure that they feel like we wanted in a part of the team.
I'd love to know. I'd love to know from the followers how many of y'all in the last, if you've started a job in the last 18 months or 24 months, had that rocky onboarding, either with stuff wasn't ready, there wasn't an onboarding process, people weren't ready to, put you to work, or even the worst of all, it wasn't what you were told it was going to be. That being
Yeah. Please add us, comment us, let us know your onboarding stories, because we definitely want to highlight that. Garrett goes, yes, onboarding is incredibly important. Great point. Yeah, I mean, so one thing I'm seeing too, in the market on my side is specifically around direct hire positions, direct hire, permanent salary positions. Companies and candidates are getting lazy. They are getting lazy. Companies are like, great, we got head count. We got head count. Let's go hire them. Why we got to hire them? No idea. Just go hire them, right? Literally, we ask a hiring manager. There's a hiring manager at a big company here in Nashville. We go, hey, so what's like the breakdown of responsibilities of this role? The hiring manager goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Like hiring managers, we get more intentional, right? Job seekers, y'all got to ask some daggone better questions, because what happens
hiring managers are like preppers at Costco. I just need to buy 200 cans of green beans. You never know.
You never know.
You never know. You never know when I'm gonna need 200 JavaScript developers.
The green beans are lit. And so and then job seekers, y'all get comfortable because you think a direct hire salary position is already scoped out by the company, so they have specific job requirements for you, and they don't. I have had more candidates in the last 90 days take full-time direct hire salary, whatever you want to call it, job opportunities, and then DM me a month into it and go, the project that they had me set up for and hired for bailed. I have nothing to do.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, guys, like y'all got to ask some better questions. So let me ask you. So what are some other tips? Let's talk towards hiring managers for a second. Dan or Jake, any specific tips for hiring managers? And again, right, Dan, Jake, and I would say combined, we've seen thousands of companies and how they work behind the scenes, right? We are coming at a place of, I have 10 years of experience. Jake, you've been in the industry, what, 7-8 years? And then Dan, you've been in it for
9.
So we have almost 30 years of experience in staffing just on this call. So close. So Dan, you kick it off. Like, what are some things that hiring managers specifically need to keep in mind?
Yeah, no, I think a couple things. One is we're going to, as a hiring manager, there's likely somebody above you kind of driving your directives, right? So make sure you know, this is actually a way to kind of bring this all together, right? Like a lot of times in IT and tech, we talk about, like, we ask interview questions. It's like, how many Skittles can you fit in a school bus, right? Like the answer isn't to like figure out exactly how many Skittles you can fit in a school bus. It's to start asking questions, right? It's to see how they're like your analytical thought is, right? And so for me, that's an important thing to do when you're asking, like, we need to hire all of these Java developers or all these Scrum teams, right? So with that, your first question should be like, okay, perfect. What is their goal? What are our goals going to be that we need to accomplish that not only I know as the hiring manager, as a leader of those folks, of how to drive them and make them successful, but also so that they feel empowered that when they join the team, that they know what the goal is that they're accomplishing. So like the same way we ask questions back to candidates about analytical thought and just the way that you think about things is the same way that we need to drive those questions internally of, hey, we need to build these Scrum teams. We need to develop this app. We need to re-architect this thing. It's like, okay, perfect. Like, what are the measurable, attainable goals that we can set forth? And then we can describe those in our interview process rather than, hey, I need a Java developer. Do you know how to refactor this? Or can you tie into this, API tool, et cetera, right? So like, I think that the most important thing is seek to understand internally before you go externally, right? On the candidate side, or if you're applying for a job, those are questions, Taylor, you touched on it there briefly, is really understand why the company is in a position of hiring. We're growing a lot. Well, great. So are literally.
So is the entire
what
country.
Does that mean?
Yeah. You're growing. Great. Was it because you had one client that went and spent 40% more this year and they're not going to spend that 40% more next year, right? Like, what does growth actually mean? What does the future of this? Hey, we need to hire, we need to refactor this, whatever, right? We need to rebuild this tool.
Get off web for us.
What about after that, right? What's next after that, right? So being intentional about why they're bringing this position on board, and don't just say, well, because like we're growing or like this person left. It's like, well, then like, why did that person leave? Right?
It's always that like second and third question. Jake, go ahead.
What's kind of funny now is that I feel like the tables have turned so much around direct hire and consulting and contracting. And what I mean by that is the main reason that people from a business perspective that I've seen are hiring direct hire is just simply to save money. They don't think about you being there beyond 18 months anyway, beyond 2 years anyway. They don't care. Like, you're really not, especially in a high tech company. They don't give a shit if you're there beyond 18 months. They're just trying to have you cost 50 grand less than hiring a consulting firm. And
isn't that crazy?
That's what it is. That's it. You can have individuals care. I'm not saying that, right? Individuals can care as you as a person, right? But as far as the company and the bottom line is concerned, that's the only reason they're doing that.
So
it's just crazy.
And that's what I say too for the job seeker. Like, you need to be intentional. You need to ask the questions.
Yeah.
But I also think too, don't stress yourself out so much for the long term. Because so I see I talk to a bunch of candidates and they're like, Taylor, like, I don't know this is a good fit, right? Like, or I'm so stressed to make this decision. It's like, listen, at the end of the day, you're probably not going to be there in 2 years. You're probably not. Like, I mean, hey, listen, you may, which is great, but at the end of the day, too, I think sometimes job seekers need to take the pressure off themselves at looking at a company for the next 5 years and looking at like what the company's doing right now. What the company is doing right now and see if that aligns to what you want to do at the moment. Because I think some people get so caught up on the next 5 years that they forget, well, hey, it needs to be the next 2 years.
I met this guy. I hosted a meetup on Tuesday night. I met this guy. He couldn't be more than 3 or 4 years into his career. And he called it he's a job switching evangelist. That's his side hustle. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, I'm trying to encourage people to get their worth and quit their job every 18 months to make sure they get paid. He's like, that was his whole platform. And I thought it was so interesting, as a young kid, and I'm old with 3 kids now, so I'm going to say he's a young kid. But young kid that his only value in that sense was that he was just trying to get more, no matter what, more money, right? Hadn't built any network, hadn't built any relationships, hadn't built any referrals, hadn't built any really friendships. And it was, one part of me was like super sad for him. I was like, man, that just kind of sucks that all you're doing is chasing the dollar. The other part of me was more reflective of that. This could be the state of where we're at when we have been remote for so long, and much of our job is task management, right? And not just like meet around the water cooler and be like, oh man, how's the weekend, or how the kids, or how's this? And it's just having this personal touch that comes from being a part of a team, not from owning your tasks, not from owning your throughput, and not from owning just your salary. So I think that goes back to what we're saying. If we're going to be on the other side of hiring, the intentionality to create a work family, a team dynamic, to where people can belong, is getting lost because we are just hustling to hit some of those numbers.
That's another conversation of how to build that within a remote culture, right? And
it's so intentional. Oh my God, it takes so much time.
So there've been some comments. Let me throw them up real quick. Brian saying Jake Shepard just working and listening to you guys, absorbing the knowledge that y'all are dropping. Thank you, Brian. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Garrett, Jake Shepard dropping knowledge bombs today. Look at this. Look at Jake.
Wow, look at Jake.
Look, good job, Jake. Alicia, good morning. It's good to see you, buddy. Andrew, now we can't see Jake. As a job seeker,
just leave it up there. No,
yeah, I just gotta leave it up the whole time. As a job seeker, there's a certain amount of anxiety that comes with starting at a new place. The thing Dan,
you want to read it?
Go ahead.
No, I'm struggling.
Dan,
is that a word?
Assuages. Go.
Assuages, Taylor.
Assuages, that for me is Andrew. Stop using big words. I'm gonna read this shit. Is the fact that I made it to where I am. Clearly, they think I provide value. Part of having a job and a salary is learning how to fit yourself into the responsibilities, not the other way around, making yourself irreplaceable.
That's good, man.
It is, but
yeah, but why? No, there has to be, if you're going to be a part of a team, the thrill of also being a part of the team and not just taking from the team.
Well, that's where we're at now. That's where
it's all take, but you don't get, and no wonder you don't feel fulfilled because you haven't done anything for anyone else. You're trying to be me. And then all of a sudden you're wondering why I don't have any real relationships and I don't have a friend at work and I don't have all this. It's because you're being selfish. No one wants to be friends with that, right? So there has to be that give and take to have complete fulfillment within the work that you're doing. Some people try to find their fulfillment in, I'm working for a nonprofit or a good cause or whatever, right? But ultimately, if you're working alongside someone that's just doing that for a paycheck, right? Maybe you need to turn to the other person to make a real relationship. Same.
Well, and that's where we're kind of teetering on finding your why, right? Because I feel like a lot of times too, like I know there's people that I've talked to where it's like, I just want money.
Wait, listen, I'm interrupting you. You got to put Andrew's.
Yeah, put up Garrett's comment.
Wait, put up Andrew's real quick. Well, Garrett's good too, but
math wages. There you go.
That's how you spell it. That's how you say it, Taylor. Sorry.
However, go ahead.
Garrett, no, I think that's a good point. He said, however, I think of all the new skills, different industries, experience he learned so often, usually some other pros have there, but yeah, so that's true. This is what I would say about jumping jobs. And this is something that I'm noticing, and this is just my thought process. I'm noticing a couple things. Well, I noticed this when I started to really question why it was about years of experience rather than oh, this person knows how to do everything you're asking. Why do they have to have X number of years? And the answer isn't usually that there's some magical thing that happens. And you can put that comment down. I want to see Jake. Is that a lot of times companies are looking to see you complete things and then deal when it's not perfect or when it's not just newly built and you're running into issues, or what happens when the scope gets changed, or what happened when funding gets moved around. How did you deal with that? Because business isn't this perfect linear direction of us moving through a project plan. It's what happens once it's done. And then you had to maintain that application. Then you realize that once it got out to the real world, that what you built maybe wasn't exactly what was delivered, right? So that's the reason why I say, bounce around if you want. But part of the reason that I think companies really shy away from that isn't necessarily because they're afraid that you might bounce. It's going to happen. People are going to leave. I want to see what happens when the going gets tough, or that super sexy thing that you were working on is no longer super sexy. Then what, right?
I like that.
Again, but that's also where the line, has been blurred, where it's really switched to this whole candidate empowerment, which, don't get me wrong, I want both sides to be empowered. But you have to remember that the team you're working on and the people you're working for are also people that want to create a team and be a part of you, right? So it's assuming that that's some robot that you're working for, right, and not being a part of the team and not feeling fulfilled, right? So
right. Alicia had a good thought here. If you're only known for chasing money, you're not really building a network that will help you in the long run. Your network will only see you as a
dropping bombs.
And then obviously he used the wrong form of your, but it's fine. We still love you, Alicia. But yeah, I mean, I think, but I also think too, right? Like I know we're like job seekers, like be more intentional, like ask better questions, but like hiring too, right? Like I think if you're a hiring manager who's only known for like, for only, for being difficult during interviews or like beating people up in interviews, like you start to become known as like not a person you want to work for. Like I have so many candidates right now. They're like, I don't want to work for a company that drags me over the coals during the interview process.
Don't work for Apple. It's stupid. But like, I hear what you're saying that, but on the other side of that, and this is where it's like, please throw it in the comments if you know the answer to this. On the other side of that difficult interview, is it, a blood in, blood out mentality where it's like, we just brought you in through this rough thing, and now you're so ingrained in a part of us that we'll do anything for you, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
or are they flippantly hiring you and they'll flippantly fire you?
Yeah,
there's both sides of it, and I think the problem is that we're still always, from whether it's on Twitter or even we fall guilty into this, is that we're talking to people in just two buckets: candidates and hiring managers, and we're not actually putting people together to build relationships that could build something else. It's hard to just go back to just meeting people, right? Like meeting people. So many people's careers have been completely made just from a neighbor or a referral from a friend or from just a network. You talk about your network all the time, and sometimes it's just meeting people and being a person.
So how can you so then for the job seekers out there?
Amen, Garrett. That's good.
Yeah, vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. Yeah, 100%. I think so. Then for the job seekers right now who are like, hey, listen, like I'm getting all these DMs. Like, should I interview? Like, should I see what else is out there? Like, what would you guys have to say right now, even for hiring managers, right? Because what's hiring managers is just a candidate
with a job.
Yeah,
candidate with a job. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, what are your thoughts to them right now? Because it is a feeding frenzy, right? We're in a feeding frenzy. I mean, heck, I know a Python engineer that just got a $50,000 raise.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, what would you tell those engineers right now or hiring managers who are casually looking around? Like, do they jump? Should they jump? What should be their mentality right now?
I mean, why?
Go.
I'm not going to tell you no. I would just tell you to know why. Right.
Be intentional, right?
Be intentional. Why are you unhappy? Are you dissatisfied? Are you just hitting the FOMO a lot more unhappiness than it does good experiences? Yeah. So I just know why. Damn, sorry to cut you off, bud.
No, I cut you off. I actually did. Is I think that it's important, right? Like, it's the same way we talked about it at the very beginning of this conversation, and this has been fun listening to you guys and engaging. But is if you're going to add people to your team, right? You be intentional with why, be intentional with the direction, and make them feel warm and welcome. It's going to be the same way for you on your job search. Is really be intentional. Know what you're looking for. If it's money, that's okay. It's perfectly fine, right? But know what it is besides. What it is, it's a certain number. Okay, perfect. Well, once I get to a certain number, then what, right? Is it, I'm going to need more? Am I trying to save or am I trying to do something? Is it going to be a nightmare waking up every morning, and going to work, right? So figure out what you're looking for in responsibilities and roles, figure out what you're looking for in compensation. If you're, figure out what you want in a working environment. Taylor and I have like a funny little back and forth going on about being in the office versus being remote forever, right? Like, what does that look like, right? So there's a lot of opportunity, and the more you're intentional about what those check boxes are and really think about it other than I'm just happy at my job, it's like, well, what's making me unhappy at my job? And what can I do to seek out that's not going to happen at my next job, right? Is that, am I the internal problem, right? Am I not realizing You know,
yeah,
what
maybe the fifth job, it's maybe you.
Yeah,
If
and you
it's,
know what?
as the
That's
saying
okay.
goes, if it's everyone else, it's you.
It's you, right? So, you know, think about what it is that you're looking for. Really be intentional. It's super, super, super easy right now to be laser focused on, hey, I can go make more money. It's like, yeah, you sure could, but then what, right? Is that what's going to help you derive your happiness? Is that going to get you to the next spot that you want to be? And if you're miserable at making $20,000 more a year, like, you might have a slightly nicer car to pull up into your like miserable workspace, but like you're still going to be miserable, right?
You're working remotely anyway. No one cares about your car. So.
I think we should end right there. Like that whole like wording just then was fantastic. Dan just like dropped a great bomb, and then Jake goes, "Yeah, but you're remote anyway, so it doesn't really matter."
Yeah,
I love that.
I think we always come back to this. Every problem that we address, we always come back to the solution of just like, you have to work on you. You have to be a good teammate.
But it's hard,
you have to do
right?
This.
And
it is hard because it's intentionality. And you know what? It's hard for me to work out, so I don't do it that much, right? And I suffer the consequences, right?
I struggle to eat well because it's hard. Because I have to be intentional, right?
But you know that when you do those things, it's the same thing relationally with the rest of your life.
It's the same thing relationally. Now, this is a whole nother conversation. We're going to wrap up here. I do want to. We're going to have a conversation on this, a whole nother one, unicorn finders, but real fast.
On
bubbles are fun until they pop. Listen, I'm going to ask you boys this. Do you see this bubble popping anytime soon? Yes or no? Give a quick summary. We'll end on this, but we're going to have another session on this more long term.
I think he's talking about like theoretical. Yeah.
I know. I'm talking about what's happening right now, though.
Like the job hiring?
Yeah.
I think the dollar will pop before the hiring stops.
That's another great one.
That
160K is going to be worth shit.
This is an inflation discussion. All right, Jake. Well,
we can stop. This is a whole nother conversation for another day, but
sometimes Jake just says things that get under my skin.
That was great, though. I love what Jake said. Can you say that again?
I said the dollar will pop before the hiring stops.
I don't think it will stop. I don't think it'll slow down for a while.
I don't think so either.
I think you've got a while.
Yeah.
It also to that, don't feel like you're on FOMO mode. You know,
correct.
This is not Bitcoin 12 years ago.
Correct.
Because you did miss out then. Right. Yep. Don't buy it now. It's like,
all right, real quick. Daniel Cherry goes, no one cares about your 2005 Kia because everyone's at home. Yes, Made South Meals, the sponsor of Guidance Counselor 2.0. You can eat healthier with Made South Meals. Joey.
Heyo.
LOL.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, Jake has been on fire today.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you.
Yeah, big old head for the rest of the day. All right, y'all. That's it. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in to Unicorn Finders this morning. We appreciate y'all a ton. Hopefully you learned at least one thing to take into your weekend. Jake, I feel like you have an announcement. Make an announcement.
I do, yeah. Please do like, share, invite people to follow the LinkedIn page. You know, we go live every Thursday, 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central for Taylor and other people in the Central Time Zone. But if like, share, comment. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for being all actionable in the comments. It's really
and then also I finally gotten around to updating the podcast. So our podcasts are going to start hitting the App Store on twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. So check them out at 6 a.m. So they'll hit your obviously app first thing in the morning. So definitely go check that out. But again, thank y'all so much for tuning in. We appreciate y'all a ton, and we will see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.